Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council's Town Planning Committee and declare the meeting open. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with the Council's governance rules. It's important that members of the public present in the gallery respect the setting and do not disrupt the meeting. We're going to commence this meeting with a reflection. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our whole community. Thank you. The Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. There are no apologies for tonight's meeting, so we'll note that in the minutes. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? I see none, and we'll note that. Thank you. Item number 5 will go into our ordinary business. Agenda item 5.1. Being T240525 PA, variation of covenant at 151 Blue Horizons Way in Pakenham. The recommendation here is that Council resolve to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit for planning permit application T240525 for the variation of covenant AH232156Q on lot 504 of PS 547240 at L F04 PS 547240 151 Blue Horizons Way, Pakenham, Vic 3810 on the grounds listed in the agenda. Do I have a mover for this lengthy item? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Payton. Thank you. Councillor Ross to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the recommendation that Council resolve to issue a notice of decision to refuse a grant to permit a planning permit application T240525 for the variation of covenant AH232156Q on lot 504 of PS 547240 at L504 PS 547240 of 151 Blue Horizons Way, Pakenham, Victoria, on the following grounds: that 1, pursuant to section 62 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, the responsible authority is not satisfied that the variation of the covenant will be unlikely to cause the owner or any land benefited by the covenant any detriment relating to A, financial loss, B, loss of amenity, C, the loss arising from change of the character of the neighbourhood, and D, any other material detriment. 2, the proposed covenant variation is inconsistent with the decision guidelines of the clause 52.02 as the interests of the affected parties benefited from the covenant AH232156Q are likely to suffer material detriment as a result of the variation. Cutting through the technical reasons that this decision's been made, knowing the area, there are reasonably small blocks in the area, and it is really, really well developed in the area. And all the people who bought into these areas, because I bought not into this area, but into another area with similar zoning as this and similar covenants. If you take off a covenant like this, it does leave the opportunity for other people to go down the same pathway. And a lot of these blocks are really small. And the roads were designed with the covenants on them to be of the size that can handle the amount of traffic that goes into those areas. And if we were to turn it, lift this covenant on this, it would change the character of the area. You would have so many more cars, so much more traffic in the area. And that's why the decision from our council officers to recommend a refusal of this, was so pertinent. Anyway, I'll leave the opportunity for others to speak about it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Trudy Payton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ross. So the points that matter here are, firstly, a private covenant is an agreement made voluntarily between original landholders and their neighbours. It's not just historical detail, it's a legally binding contract and rightly better contested in a court of law than in this chamber. As a council, we need to respect the limits of our authority in relation to it. Private agreements between individuals should be upheld unless all parties consent to a change or appropriate compensation is provided. I drove around the neighbourhood, I looked at this particular property, I saw all of the cream colour-bond fences that clearly marked that this was a special area. There was a unity to the style of dwellings and the spaces between them. So clearly most of the people who have bought into this area have bought it for the aesthetic and the benefits that it provides. So I take seriously the idea of do no harm. Amending this covenant to allow an application for a second dwelling here, in my view, would cause harm both to the aesthetic character of the neighbourhood and to the property values of adjoining owners. These impacts matter and they justify upholding the covenant. There is no offsetting community value in allowing a change in the covenant. On page 40 of the agenda is a letter from a legal firm, Feigl and Newell, who are experts in the field of covenants. The writer confirms that the beneficiaries to this covenant are highlighted in yellow on the plan and that the applicant, highlighted in blue, is legally bound to observe the burden of the covenant. So my belief is that if this was tested in a court of law, a council decision to refuse would be upheld. While 3 objections may not usually meet the threshold for refusal in this case, those objections carry more weight because of the covenant. The current owners were aware of the covenant when they purchased the property. That's a basic matter of due diligence or buyer beware. If a restriction like this exists, it remains in place unless every party to it agrees or they take the matter to a court of law. So my decision here is not against development, it's for supporting private agreements and the rights of property owners and their neighbours. I will be supporting the council officer's recommendation to refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payton. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Ross to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Payton, for pointing out those points and taking the opportunity to go down and have a look at the area as well. For those who travel down into that area, you'll see there's one avenue in at that end of the estate, and the roads basically all wind around to that one exit that goes out. It is based upon, and the covenant was registered in the 18th of May 2010, and it basically says, our officers have summarised the covenant, prohibits the construction of more than one dwelling on the land and requires the dwelling to have a clear floor area of not less than 18 squares on the outer walls. So basically it allows one dwelling, and when people buy into the areas like I did myself in another estate, you know what those covenants are. You know you can't subdivide the back. And when you put your house on that block, you know that you can't do anything. So if you choose to move it right to the front to subdivide the back, you know you can't do that. So people go in well aware of these facts. It's sad if people don't know what the covenants are and they don't read into it. But in this occasion, it's protecting the area for what it was designed to have done. And I know in some areas we have overdevelopments that come in where there's so many more units built onto sites that should not be there. So it doesn't have the parking, it doesn't have the area for your garbage bins and the whole lot of it, and it just encroaches on everybody else in the area. So anyway, I wish the applicants well, but unfortunately on council, I will be supporting the refusal of this application, and I'll leave it to my fellow councillors to make their own decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 5.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. 5.2, planning matters dealt with by officers under delegated authority, June 2025. The recommendation here is that we note the report. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Pomeroy.
I move the recommendation as noted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Roberts. Over to you, Councillor Pomeroy.
I support the recommendation to note the planning matters dealt with by officers under delegated authority for June 2025. This section provides a summary of planning matters that have been dealt with between the 14th of April and the 18th of May. It shows the efficient and effective handling of routine planning applications, helping ensure our community needs are met. I would just like to highlight T030219-1, which is the construction of a 13-bed extension and a resident lounge at the Hillview Bunyip Aged Care Facility. So it's great to see this one on the list. It's a community-owned, not-for-profit organisation, and Hillview have always prospered thanks to the generosity of funders and the hard work of volunteers and staff. This is a $5 million project, of which there's $2.5 million from federal funding. This is really important for Bunyip and surrounding areas for their aged care. So happy to see that one in, and I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. I'll go to Councillor Roberts.
Through you, Mayor, I'll be supporting this report. I'm just noting regarding my ward of Henty that a lot of the permits that have been passed during this period are for one of the last remaining areas of open land where a subdivision can be put in Henty ward, and that due to a environmental significance overlay in that area, many of the homes need to apply for a permit. So many other new estates, it's not necessarily the case. So I appreciate the effort that the people moving in are putting in their applications to build there and going through that extra loop. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Would anyone else like to contribute to this item? No, I'll go back to Councillor Pomeroy.
Nothing further, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 5.2 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. 5.3, Planning Matters VCAT report for June 25. The recommendation here is that we note the report also. Do I have a mover for this item? No mover. Councillor Ross, thank you.
I move that this report be noted. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Councillor Ross's motion? Councillor Potter, over to you, Councillor Ross.
It's an excellent report. I know that Councillor Owen was one of the ones who put this up in the past to have a VCAT report with planning matters on it, so people in the community, not only councillors, can have a look through to see if there's any decisions being made, what the decisions were, and that not be forgotten until they're resolved. Anyway, I'll leave it to my fellow councillors if they'd like to highlight something out of this report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Samantha Jane Potter.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm quite aware that this report represents a community member's blood, sweat and tears. This report represents people's dreams, and also hours of work and money have gone into these. And I respect the due process, and I'm grateful these get a chance to be reassessed by such a professional body as VCAT. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Would any other councillor like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Ross to sum up.
Nothing further. Thanks, Mayor.
No worries. Thank you. We'll put the officer recommendation to agenda item 5.3 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. 5.4, Planning Scheme Amendment Activity for June 2025. And the recommendation here is that we note the report in Table 1. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ross. Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. This report provides an update on the status of active planning scheme amendments and planning scheme amendment requests received. So we've got a number of items in this report. The report details, provides a full update regarding the status of each of those items. One that I am looking forward to coming to the June council meeting on the 16th of June is the James Hicks pottery site along the Princess Highway. I think everyone knows this site. So we look forward to that coming to the 16th of June council meeting, where council will consider writing to the Minister for Planning and requesting the Minister for Planning to authorise council to prepare amendment C282 card concurrently with a planning permit application. So we'll be considering that item with the planning permit as well attached to that. So I look forward to that. So I encourage residents to have a look at this report for the full update. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Councillor Ross.
I concur with Councillor Owen. The James Hick pottery application and coming to council is really important. It's been around all the time I've been on council, and I'm pretty sure Councillor Owen, it would have been all the time that he's been on council too, that it wasn't in use. It's been sitting there. And unfortunately, we feared that it was going to fall down. When it falls down, you lose it forever. We don't have a whole lot of heritage in Cardinia Shire or in Australia for that matter. And if we can preserve any of it, we should be. And for the developer who hasn't really done a whole lot in this space except leave it there with a fence around it, it would have been an absolute shame to fall down. When it was purchased, that whole area with the pottery there, the deal was meant to be that was going to be preserved from the outset. So to think that the whole estate's being built, it's still sitting there looking very flimsy, like it might fall down. Hopefully this will go through. Council will listen to all whys and why-fors that we should be writing to the Minister, and hopefully the Minister will give a decision, if we plan to go that way, that it can be preserved and looked after in the way that it should be. That's all I'd like to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Are there any other councillors to speak to this item? I see Councillor David Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I would speak in favour of the officer's recommendation as well, but I'd just point out, personally, I find this report very important because for me it demonstrates that where there's a will, there's a way to make significant changes in our Shire. The planning scheme is the bottom line for many planning decisions. And what we've identified here is a number of areas where it's not quite working. And to see that council and previous councillors have been prepared in the past to investigate what's not quite working and identify that planning scheme amendments are necessary and be prepared to prosecute that case and then put that to the Minister is very heartening to me, because I come from an area where the planning scheme perhaps hasn't been working well for continuing agriculture into the future. And it's good to know that when the work's done and the analysis is done and council achieves a position, there is a way that we can, if necessary, recommend to the Minister for Planning that things need to change in our district. I also note the high amount of variety here. We've got a heritage thing that we're talking about here. We've got a municipal-wide environmental sustainability thing. It's got its pros and cons. It means it's going to cost more to build, but then you'll save your bills with a more efficient sort of building. We've got another municipal-wide one around the agricultural audit, and then we've got another one here around the expansion of a cemetery. So where we need to change the scheme, we're prepared to change the scheme, and this report's an important record of that.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Are there any other councillors to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Owen to sum up.
Everything's been said. Thank you. No more. I'll put the motion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Owen. So we'll put the officer recommendation to 5.4 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. That now concludes tonight's meeting. I want to thank you for your attendance and for those in the gallery. The next council meeting will be on the 16th of June at 7 p.m. in the council chambers. I now declare the meeting closed at 7:20.